Hey, in this video, we're going to look at day one of Claude for Agentic AI Masterclass series. Now, this video has been taken from our actual live interactive session. That was roughly around 3.5 hours. We shrink it down and removed all the things that probably may not be required for this for you to understand. And that's why you roughly just a little bit over 2 hours that you will be finding. So let me walk you through what you can expect so you can make best out of this training. Make sure you watch till end because there is some golden nuggets, and that will also help you on day two of the series, which is where we will be going a little bit deeper into this Claude, mainly targeted for anyone who is working in IT, whether you're a developer, architect, administrator, SysOps, DevOps engineer, managers, leaders who are working on AI assisted development workflow, on AI for software development lifecycle. So with that, let's look at what you can expect in this. So first, initially, we're going to take a little bit introduction of each of you, and I would highly recommend you to leave a comment below this video to see, so that based on that, we can do more videos around based on your background. If you're a manager or technical manager, leader, architect, developer, administrator, whatever your role is, and even if you have different role apart from what I mentioned here, write it down so I can create or share something relevant specific to how do you use Claude in your specific job role. Also, what your exposure to AI, so we can based on that we can create some videos. And then have you used Claude before or not? If you've used, we can skip those parts. But if you've not used, we can give you some tips and tricks on how you can make Claude as useful as you. Once that's done, then we are going to look at briefly touch base with about what is this whole framework or learning path you should be doing if you're a complete beginner to making you expert. And finally, you should be able to do the certification, which is Claude Architect Certified Architect. And even if we're not doing for certification or not preparing for certification, learning in a manner which is laid down by Anthropic, which is very useful. So listen to that. So we'll look at what are the modules you should be learning in what order, and that's what you're going to see in this over the next couple of weeks and months on this channel. We'll also then there's another video should be coming or should also be published. Maybe I'll put it into the series, which is, or maybe we'll put a link below this Claude Certified Architect, what you should be doing, how should be preparing the complete roadmap. That's the ultimate objective for us to prepare. May not be directly if you're an architect, highly recommend you to for this certificate. Once that's done, that's when we'll start with. This is where we cover the background and basics, because it's always good to start with basics and concepts. So what is the difference between AI, machine learning, traditional AI, to now a more narrow, we talk about strong AI versus weak AI, including generative AI, agentic AI differences. If you know this, you can skip this part. If you're already familiar, you can skip some of these parts. And then we'll briefly touch base with AI agent and talking about what the components of agents it's good for you to know, understand, and how agents are different from agentic AI in terms of what are the some subtle differences between that. We'll also briefly touch base in terms of how agentic AI is being shaping from the previous last 20-30 years we've been doing AI, but how in last 3-4 years been suddenly jumped on. And this is where the first part of AI agents, which is more important, which is memory. How does it work? We'll give a little bit briefly to overview understanding about memory, but then in future videos we're going to go a little bit deeper into short-term memory, long-term memory, and contextual memory and other things, but how memory can play a big role in your agentic, especially when you're doing and working conversational AI. We'll also briefly touch base with difference between GPT or ChatGPT or OpenAI versus Gemini versus Claude versus Grok AI or DeepSeek, and into the context of these some of the parameters, maybe context accuracy, reasoning, multimodal, and other things as well. And then we'll go with actual Claude once we understand lay down the basics. Story will begin with, always start with background, how the story of Anthropic became, and the Claude, who founded it, why it suddenly became so famous and good, what are the actual underlying building principles for Anthropic, or which is now company behind Claude as well, how the Claude name came Claude into picture itself as well. Now there are three models in the Claude is nothing but a family of large language models from a company called Anthropic. There are three models that will be using: Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. At the time of recording, these are the version numbers. What are the differences, which one to use when, we'll be talking about as well. And then we'll begin with the concepts, which is token, which is very important. This is a new currency. That's how you pay, or in the terms of tokens, on how much you use. So tokens. We'll also look at the context window, very important. That's why Claude became so, because they have a very large, huge context window. And then of course reasoning, for which you do. And how the token, we'll take an example from OpenAI when you discuss, because that's how you'll be eventually paying for these whatever services you're using, so tokens. And then, as I said, the big shift that's happening, why you should be learning, very, very important, especially whatever your background is, very important. Now, actually, in when we go for later day 2, 3 or future episodes, that's when you to look at how do you use Claude across the entire software development lifecycle. How do you plan and design, code, review, debug, deploy, document, entire CI/CD pipeline that you might be doing. That's what we'll be talking about. And then once you watch towards end, I want you to genuinely give me the feedback. This is the genuinely feedback from the guys who are actually paid for these programs. Again, I said, of course, there is a lot more goes and we have a lot more depth inside the program. But just to give you an idea about, I would love you to rate us and say excellent, good, improvement, and whatever, if you're rating us need improvement or good, what we need to do to make it excellent, what all things you want to see on this channel as well, very, very important. And then finally, I'll wrap up with day 2 part of this, where we actually will go deeper into cloud building blocks of things like projects, the artifacts, and then setting memory, payment plan, a lot of other things that will be required for you to set up this. That's what we're going to cover on day 2. I'll wrap up as well. And if you're meeting first time, my name is Atul. I have close to 2.5 decades of IT experience. This is some of the clients I've worked across the globe, right from banking to telecom to fintech to healthcare and a lot of other big clients all across the globe as well. Now, I've started my journey being from mechanical engineer to diploma course in IT to then database administrator to, but then I've gone from earning less than $100 a month back in India to moving to UK in London to working on 2,500 pound to 500, 700, 900 in excess of 1,000 pounds a day. So whatever is coming from a real implementation experience. And I also cover a 3-step framework on talking about how to go from whatever role you're doing to upskill and then learn all these things in detail. There's a free class that I do, which I'll be talking about maybe in the links below, and I'll talk about that towards the end as well, and how you can get hold of on earning very good salary as well. And this is the same exact framework has been used by guys like Steve or Devashish or SJ to not only get a job but almost double their salary learning and upskilling as well. Also like Shovik, on hundreds and thousands of individuals have been working with some of the biggest clients across the globe as well. Now, that's what we'll be talking about. With that, let's look at the day 1 of this session. I'm going to hand it over to my experts on this.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know there are people joining from different time zones. I was looking into the names and I realized people must be joining from different time zones. So, hello, welcome to this first day. I'm really excited about this particular course. We're going to work together for nearly 2 months. Now, what we are going to do is today is the foundation day, right? And I call the first day is a very, very important day, not from the content perspective. Content will flow, and I'm sure you will all get into this particular groove very shortly. But why is this important? The first day is like an icebreaker, right? I want all of you to open up. I want all of you to understand what is required in this particular course. I'm sure you all would have done a good investment to this particular course. Some of you would have bought a single course, maybe a bouquet of courses. You would have done a good kind of investment, right? All of us are going to spend couple of hours, 3 hours every day, right? On a weekend, right? We are probably leaving behind our personal commitments and professional commitments, and we are inside this particular session. So it's very important that we draw a outcome for this particular training. It's very important that the participants that I have on the other side of the training, they get something outside of this training. They get a wow feeling. That's my personal kind of goal that I have it. The second is they achieve something. Maybe you get to a particular job, you get to a particular project building after this particular training, or you probably get certified on Claude. I'm going to guide you how you can get certified on CCA, that is Cloud Certified Architect. It's very easy after this particular training that you complete. So let's start together. Now, before I start, like I said, I know there are people who are joining with different backgrounds. There could be people who would be very, very new to AI, beginners of AI. There could be people who have kind of got some kind of a working experience with AI, or they have been kind of exploring on AI, or they have been using AI. There could be people who might come from a tech background versus a non-tech background. So it's very important for me to understand who my audience is, right? We call that as a KYA, know your audience. Now, if this was a corporate workshop where we would have got probably 20 to 25 people, I would have done a verbal introduction from each one of you. But there are 50 plus people, and I see people are still joining. So it would be difficult for me to do a verbal introduction. But I would definitely want to know my audience from this first 5 or 7 minutes. What I'm going to do is I have put some pointers in the chat box. I've already done so. If you see that, I already put those. I'll reinsert those. Here we go. And I would want you to create one single message, put these particular pointers. I know people have already started putting it. Your name, your organization, if you're already working. If you're not working, say, yo, I'm not working. Perfectly okay to say that. Your role in the current organization. What is your exposure to AI? And have you worked on Claude before or something like that? I've already started getting few. So Srikant works with, I'm going to read some of them. It would be difficult to read all of them, but I'll read some of them for my understanding. Basic exposure to AI. Yes, but a very basic level on Claude. No exposure to AI, and he has never worked with Claude before. No problem, Iswar. I'll get you comfortable. Anand works with engineering manager, just a beginning, knows AI as a jargon. Okay, no problem. And probably a beginner user of the Claude. Okay. Ritesh work as a Oracle Cloud on the Oracle Cloud technical, works with AI, and also has worked with Claude before. Wonderful. Parik from a financial industry, works as a director, a good exposure to AI, or yes, an exposure to AI, but not with Claude. Okay, no problem. Ayub works into as an architect, exposure to AI, and browsing, but not very comfortable with Claude. That's what I see. A very big message by Chandra. Thank you, Chandra, for writing that big message for me. Laptop and working or as a senior technical specialist. Extensive exposure to AI/ML. Good to know that. And you have been doing a lot of good things on AI/ML stuff and good exposure to Claude. So I would call you as a kind of an expert here. Ramesh working with a basic exposure to AI and probably working with Claude already. I'll just quickly go through it for my understanding. Beginner, no exposure to AI, not work with Claude. Sai, basic on Claude. Alka, never worked with Claude. Raji, basic AI, not worked with Claude or a basic level. Shiksha, intermediate on AI, beginner on Claude. Chadi works, no exposure to Claude before. Kevin, used Claude quite a bit. Wonderful. That's good to know. Thank you. Vinay works as a CTO. Yes, a high level exposure to AI. Just got the max plan of Claude. That is really great, Vinay. Good to know that you got the max plan. I had my max plan last week. I was on a pro, but then certainly realized that I can't do much with Pro and I had to upgrade to Max. Good to know, Vinay. You're also on the Max plan. Wonderful to see that. Manish works on a basic understanding of AI, a little on the chatbot. Uh, to read a few more, Shantanu works maybe a newbie to AI and has got no exposure to Claude before. Srikant works on VS Code with Claude. Wonderful. Sanjay works with some experience with AI, I would say. And Anil, no exposure to Claude, but basic experience of exposure to AI. I'm just quickly going through it. I see there are lots of different messages. No, no, basic yes, good exposure. No, no, basic yes. Okay, good. So as I was thinking, the expectation is the same. It's a mixed crowd. There are people who are on the extreme side. They already probably are working on AI. They are probably working on Claude. Folks, there could be some repetition for you, maybe the couple of sessions or maybe more sessions. There are people who are beginners of AI, beginners of Claude, doesn't matter. We are going to start with the, a basics over here. There are people who are probably intermediate. Now they are the perfect match. They would see some repetition, but they would also see some new things that are coming up. Now, in this kind of a mixed crowd, right? It's always safe I say that 60% of you at least said that new to AI, new to Claude, or at least 50 to 60% if I got my data analysis right. I would say 20 to 30% is intermediate, and there are very few, I would say, who are probably working on Claude or they have got a good exposure to AI. So in such scenarios, it is always good to kind of start from the beginning, discuss that particular, cover those particular basics, and then we get into the business during that particular time. What do you guys think? Do you think that's a right strategy to do it? Yes, if you are with me. Wonderful. Now, folks, let me introduce myself and then we will get into the business. I'll tell you what we are required to do on this particular day, today's day, and we'll go with the flow. So, a quick introduction about myself. I won't do a voice introduction. Let me give my audio introduction here. So I'm based out of Mumbai in India. By education, I've done MTech in computer science long back in 2004. It's been over 20 years since I've been working, 21 to 22 years of experience. So did a lot of, played a different kind of roles in these 2 decades of experience. In that, the majority of that, I worked as a corporate trainer. I was working as a corporate trainer into data and AI for a very, very long time, right? Uh, but then 20 years is a big time and got a chance to work into other roles. For example, I was working as a architect for some time. I was working as a subject matter expert in the data and BI for a long period of time. I since I was inclined towards training, training was my passion right from my day one. So I got a chance to work as a training manager for some time. I got a chance to work as a head of learning and development for 2 mid-size IT organizations, right? I got a chance to work as a head of campus hiring, campus training, RMG for good amount of time, I would say. But then while I was enjoying the leadership roles, really enjoying that different portfolios that I was leading, I had moved away from technology and I was missing technology really. I'm a kind of a person who wanted to be a technology person right from the day one. So 2022, I took a conscious role that I'm going to quit my leadership role and I want to come back into technology and just focus on technology for the rest of my life that I have, right? And obviously, data and AI is my first choice. I was doing that before and I continue doing it right away here. So I'm also kind of an authorized instructor with different cloud. For example, I'm a Databricks certified instructor. I do trainings on data and AI side on the Databricks, right? I'm an AWS authorized instructor. So I do data and AI trainings on the AWS side. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. So I do similar trainings on the Azure side of it. And I'm Snowflake certified as well. So I do similar trainings on the Snowflake side as well. And apart from that, the regular AI trainings is something that I do it as well. So cloud data and AI is my forte, uh, big time forte that I have it. From a training experience perspective, I have easily trained more than 20,000 IT professionals in my career, right from my start. Easily delivered over 800 corporate workshops and close to 100 unique corporates that I have catered to. Now, folks, let's get into the business. Now, very quickly, now we are going to cover all of that as a part of our training. But then very quickly, I want to kind of show you what are we going to do module wise. I won't spend a lot of time here. The first module is the foundations of Claude and the agentic AI. Why Claude? How is it different? What is agentic AI? I did give you an example of an agent like brain and a tools and a planning and a memory, but we'll take a deeper dive into understanding what typically agentic AI workloads look like. We look into use cases like we were talking about. Is it only for developers? No, we have got different kind of things that you can do it. Maybe a requirements gathering, maybe an architectural design, maybe a testing, maybe CI/CD. We'll talk about all of that over here. Moving on, the setup is very important. So typically, how do you use Claude Code in individuality? Using it as a tool. But then how do you integrate that with probably VS Code? Or how do people who said we are going to we work with Genie Code. Can you have Claude Code work with Databricks, right? How do I have typically an API access? How do I bring all of those particular different components together? How do I create my tools, access my tools? The environment setup is very, very important. Like I said, if you have your environment setup, the training is going to be kind of very, very easy for us to kind of work with it. So obviously we need to spend some time. We need to understand that how do we curate that entire ecosystem before we can kind of start working with it. So that's going to be a module number 2 that we work on. The module 3 is the actual module where we start working on it, right? Like you said, the entire crux of our training is agentic. And not just single agent, we start working on those multi-agent right from the start, which is module 3 here. So we go over here, talk about, given a particular task, how does that kind of a task gets divided into subtask, right? Which is called as a task decomposition and chaining. How do I bring in multiple sub agents, which we call it as a multi-agent orchestration? I already spoke about it multiple times. So that's something that we do it on the module number 3. One of the important things that we cannot live without, right? I always say that, the English is the next programming language. Now you must be thinking, but what programming language you are going to do this training? Are you going to do it on Python? Are you going to do it on Java? Are you going to do it on maybe, .NET? I don't care. But to be very honest, I don't care, right? I keep telling with the introduction of AI, what's the next programming language? It is English. If you know English, if you know how to command your AI, you're done. Maybe your language knowledge does help in debugging, troubleshooting, and all of that, but that's what we are going to do. And how do you basically have English as a programming language? You have to be very, very good with prompt engineering. So we are going to spend some time on prompt engineering, understanding like techniques like RTF, that is role task format, context task format, RESF, zero shot prompting, few shot prompting, a tree of thoughts, chain of thoughts, right? How do you go your single turn conversations going? How do you have your multi-turn conversations going? We talk about all of that. So in short, prompt engineering is an important skill wherever you work with. This is something that is very, very important because you should know how to curate your prompts. How do you curate your system prompts? How do you curate your guardrails? It all LLM understands only prompts. And then, folks, it's not just about development. We have to kind of work on the entire stack. So you have to understand that we are generating everything with an AI. Let it be a front end, let it be a back end. We might create our own APIs and work on all of that. So one of the important thing is how do I have those coding standards created? How can I have my engineering standards created? Now in the cloud world, if I have to give you one thing, there's something called as a Claude.md, right? Where you put your instructions, you put your engineering standards, you put your coding principles, you put your best practices and work on all of that. But then see, and you can see this, we are referring to a Claude.md file over here. So how do I work with all of that and kind of cut across a back end and a front end and all of that? So that's going to be a module 5, which is a very, very interesting module. In fact, if you plan to go for a CCA certification, which is Cloud Certified Architect, they focus on all of this. They focus on how do you create that Claude.md file? How do you work on that particular entire code generation techniques and engineering standards? So obviously can't go into detail, but just kind of telling you what that module is all about. I did tell you it's not just limited to coding. You may want to create UI, not just UI, UX as well. UI and UX, they are not same. For the people who work in the development area, UI is different, where you go ahead and create your screens. The user experience is different. How can I give a consistent experience to my end users? How can I give my simplistic, kind of my UI designs to my end users? How can I have my interaction going on with the end users? So they're different, the UI and UX. So both the UI, which is your UI design, and the experience generation can be curated with a code. And you can see that now they have launched a separate product, which is Claude Design, which typically, replaces your Figma. I won't say replaces, but then it can do a lot of things on the Figma. It can kind of create that marketing collaterals and lots of things can be done with it. So that's something which is module number 6. Needless to say, we cannot live without quality engineering. We are not here just to create a code, garbage in, garbage out, good in, good out. So we have to also kind of assess our quality. So how do we design our unit test, integration test, other kind of your test? We kind of build that entire workflows. There was a time where we were automating that test with the tools like Selenium and Load Runner and all of that. Not anymore. We could do all of that within the cloud itself. So that's something which we do it here. What about documentation? So I said it's an entire design. You're going to also kind of curate your design or the documentation. Maybe, create the architectural kind of your diagrams for your team, create documentations for your customers. Or in the typical world, we create that README files, which talks about your APIs and all of that. Can this be done? Let me tell you, Claude does that wonderfully. It is so good at it. I have seen certain documents generated by the Claude. They are awesome. If I compare it with the other kind of tools, the other tools also can generate documents, but the way the Claude works, it's typically very much in sync with the code. That's something which is very, very important. Where our life cycle doesn't end over here. We talk about the entire cycle, the development and the ops. So the ops also can be kind of integrated over here. What about my CI/CD pipelines? What about my kind of GitHub actions? All of that can be kind of done over here. What about my Rally integration, Jira integration, all of that. Life cycle doesn't end when we kind of go ahead and ship our products. We kind of also think about continuous improvement. We get some tickets, we get some kind of PR tickets raised by our customers. How do we go about handling that? Troubleshooting that, all of that comes over here. One of the important things, which probably becomes very important, and your customers would always ask you, "Hey, we are using Claude, but how safe we are? How are we using those AI standards?" So responsible AI becomes very important. Some of you work on the AI side. There are lots of principles of responsible AI like accountability, ownership, privacy, security, reliability. I can go on. Not This is not a training, but then typically, how do I bring those ethics into picture? The coding ethics. How do I bring into my responsible AI into picture? How do I ensure that my Claude is having minimal, in the world of cloud, we say that least privilege principle, right? So how do I bring that access controls and least privilege principle in the world of cloud? That's something we work on this particular module, the governance, the security, and the responsibility. And the module 12 is not actually a concept, but here we cover some kind of a use cases over here, right? It's about, how can I work on different use cases? So we typically cover 2 to 3 use cases and create those particular dedicated engines, or I would say the dedicated kind of agents, which typically orchestrates all of that. So that's something that we cover on. The last module is all about recapping the entire thing, looking at end to end. How do we do it? Giving you some kind of a path so that you can then take it on from here. Most importantly, if you are here for a certification, this is a great certification to have. Like I said, 2015 was the year when people were kind of worried about cloud. And people who got certified at that point of time, between 2015 and 2019, they are today getting a salary of 200K or upwards of 200K. This is that particular wave. According to me, as I see the market today, the people who are going to get kind of certified on this is going to be the most valuable certification, because this is going to be the kind of the future for tomorrow, as I see it, right? It's a very challenging certification, let me tell you. And this is where that training comes in over here. I'll tell you why challenging. It is all scenario based, right? You have 60 questions, and let me tell you, all that particular questions are scenario based. There's no single question that you will see that, a plain question and you will say A, B, C, D, or whatever that you have it. You will have scenarios. Some scenarios say that, my customer wants to implement this. The context window is a problem. We see that, there are different sessions that we are opening. How would you go ahead and kind of tackle that situation? And that's the reason it is not called as a Claude certified developer. It is Claude certified kind of an architect. How you think as an architect, how you think as an orchestrator, you would tackle that particular situation. So it's quite a challenging certification that you have it. And you would have already seen the 5 exam domains. I would have already spoken about it. Our modules are already covering each one of that. Did we speak about agentic architecture? We did. The tools MCP integration, we did. Workflows, we did. Prompt engineering, we did. Context management, we did. So all of that is getting covered. So I will give you the guidance, and typically I'll get you certified on that particular thing. Like I said, the today's day is the foundational day. We are going to set some foundations for the Claude over here. right? So 70%, 80% of the people who said we never use Claude, I'm going to kind of open gates for you. I'm just kind of not going into today, I'm not going to go into Claude Code, but I'm going to set up the foundations for Claude Code. Tomorrow onwards, we will see how do you kind of set up your Claude Code, how do you go ahead and kind of fire certain things into the Claude and all of that. But today I want to set the foundations right so that we don't have to kind of reiterate. And that's what typically is our agenda as well. If you follow the agenda, it's kind of a foundational day that we have it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right from a simple definition of agentic AI. Now, first thing first, let me start with a simple question. As I said, this is an icebreaker day. Now, I know all of you cannot unmute yourself. Fine, no problem. But you have a chat box. I'm going to ask you a simple question. What is AI according to you? Let's start with a bare minimal thing. What is AI? I know few people would have already attended some courses, but I want to quickly show you the evolution of AI to the agentic AI. And then I want to take you from that particular agentic AI world. What is AI? Put your answers in the chat box. Okay. Okay. I'm going to select the best answer. I'll keep reading this. Okay. Wonderful. Super. Super. Keep going. Okay. Okay. It's a simple English language. I love that. Yes, that's the world that we are living in, right? Everything is English. Wonderful. Super. Go on. No problem. So let's look into this whiteboard. And it's important that we understand why are we here? What are we going to understand from this? It's not a AI training. It's an agentic AI training that we are working with. We are going to work with one of the agentic AI tool, Claude Code. Before I introduce you to Claude Code, I introduce you to the entire suite of tools that Anthropic has. What is Anthropic? How is it different from different kinds of large language models that you see it? Let's understand one thing. I think most of you agreed that AI is basically to create machines which can simulate human intelligence, right? Folks, like I always say, we should be thankful to God that we are blessed with so great capabilities. God has kind of given us so great capabilities to work with. We are good at decision making. We are good at analyzing something. We are good at kind of, you know, uh, kind of hearing, recognizing, identifying. We have got so many great capabilities that God has given us. We are probably one of the superpowers in the universe, I would say, not just on the earth, probably. And that's what some machines are trying to do. The machines are trying to simulate the human intelligence, and that is the world of AI. But then let's see how the AI is evolving. First thing, is AI something new? No, AI is not new. In one of the conversations, in one of the conferences that I was talking about, and one of the gentlemen was saying, since the evolution of AI from 2021 onwards, did AI come in 2021? No. Probably just people are referring to AI when GPT came into existence. No. AI exists for decades, from decades. That's such incorrect that, the evolution of AI from 2021 onwards. No. AI is something which is there for decades. I had AI as one of my subjects in my engineering, right? Now, what I'm trying to show you is there's something called as a strong AI and a narrow AI. What was narrow AI? A narrow AI means an AI which is focused on one single thing or maybe fewer tasks. For example, an AI which can play chess, an AI which can drive cars, self-driving cars, an AI which can predict whether a person should be granted a loan or loan should not be granted, an AI which can do a fraudulent transaction identification, an AI which can kind of predict whether a person is having cancer or not. That is weak AI or a narrow AI because it is just doing one single thing for you. That is what we call it as the kind of narrow AI over here, isn't it? That's narrow AI. And this exists for years. But what is strong AI? A strong AI is an AI which is expert at everything or multiple things. An AI which can do multiple things what humans can do. Now, such AI does not exist as of now. Even when we are at the peak of delivering AI, at a peak of doing certain things, such AI does not exist as of now. It's probably going to take some time, few decades to reach there where we can have an AI which can do most things what human can do. Forget about doing everything. Most things what human can do. So that is a strong AI. But what has happened in the last few years, because of the evolution of the AI, when we started a few decades back, we were just doing weak AI. But now we are getting closer to a strong AI. We have not reached there, but we are getting closer to that strong AI. How? Let's see the evolution of the AI here. First thing first, we know these large bubble, what I call it as an AI which is to simulate the human intelligence. So the first form of AI was machine learning. What is machine learning? It is basically creating a machine or a model which can simulate the human intelligence, but this machine would learn based on the past data. So it is nothing more than a data science. If I have to predict whether a person has got diabetes or not, I will train my machine on my past data, the patients who are having diabetes, patients who are not having diabetes. I will train my machine, and that data will create a model which can do predictions. If I have to create a machine which is going to predict whether a transaction is fraudulent or not, I will train it on a lot of data, and then I will predict whether a transaction is fraudulent or not. So I am just making my machine learn based on my past data. Now, this is there for decades. There is no big deal about it. There are models which we have been using for decades. I developed my first ML model probably 15 years back. So it exists for decades. That's what I'm telling you. Then came the world of folks, deep learning. What is deep learning? A deep learning means we know that we are training our machine to predict something or to make some decisions. But instead of training based on some algorithm or something, can I train it like how a human brain works? Ultimately, what am I doing? I'm trying to simulate the human intelligence. And we know how a human brain learns. Any person from a biology or why biology, we all had this into our school days. Any idea, folks? How does a human brain learn? What are that particular components of the brain which processes the information and make us learn? Absolutely, all of you are bang on. We have got billions of neurons in our brain, and that those are processing your information, and they help us in kind of learning and making some kind of decisions over here. And that is deep learning. So from a complex task, for example, if I want to kind of do a OCR recognition, or if I want to do an image analysis, or if I want to do an image identification, I can use deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. Here also, I typically train my machine based on my data, but the way I make my machine learn is by creating something called as an artificial neural network. I create that an artificial neural network, which typically makes my machine. Now, again, this is decades old. We have been working on deep learning, different kind of networks like convolutional networks, recurrent neural networks, other kind of networks. This theory has been very, very old. Now, till this point of time, we were just thinking about making my machines do some predictions, whatever prediction it is, simple problem or a complex problem. We were only thinking about machine learning or AI, which can do predictions. Can I do a forecast of my sales? Can I predict what would be the temperature tomorrow? Can I predict whether a particular stock price would increase or not, or rather it will have a drop? Can I predict something? It is basically all the predictions that we were working on. And I would call that as a weak AI. It is just performing one single task. But something happened in 2020, 2021. We got introduced to the large language models, the era of GPT. And in fact, before GPT, Google had kind of published one of that particular research papers. I don't know how many of you have seen that research paper, right? And that was an inspiration for large language models. That was kind of a simple theory. If you have not seen it, you should see it. The name of that research paper is Attention is All You Need. You can just search for Attention is All You Need. And that was probably a, I would say, a spark for all of these particular large language models. And that kind of gave birth to something called as a generative AI. And now, as the name suggests, this AI is a subset of deep learning. This is also the place where you will make your machines learn, but you are not restricted to just predictions. This is an AI that is becoming really, really dangerous. It is really, really dangerous. Why? Because this AI says, I'm not here just to do predictions. You want to do a sentiment analysis? Fine, that was old. This AI says, I can now generate a content for you, a new content for you. It could be anything. Can I write probably a new poem which nobody has ever seen it? If I'm a musician, I can generate a music, an absolutely new music which nobody has kind of heard that before. I'm a coder and I can generate the complete code for you. So it's all about generation now. And that was probably an alarm that this is probably challenging the human beings. It is challenging the creativity of human beings, my dear folks. Right? It is challenging the human beings' creativity. It means you may be a great coder of your organization. Maybe you belong to a top 5% coders club of your organization. And this AI says, I can write an equivalent good code as you do it. You may be a best musician. Say you are A.R. Rahman in India or anywhere else. And this AI says, I can compose music as good as the best musicians. There came the generational capability. And that sparked the new era of AI, which we call it as an agentic AI. And that is now getting us very, very closer to strong AI. Like I said we have not reached strong AI. In fact, it's going to take some time where we reach strong AI. But this generative AI spark has become so fast that people already see that strong AI is not too far. We would soon have AI which can do most things what humans can do. And the generative AI sparked something called as an agentic AI. Question to everyone. What is agentic AI? How is it different from generative AI? Okay. AI with tools and purpose to use them. Wonderful, not bad. Agentic AI itself is generative AI. Well, you can say that, but agentic AI is like a subset of generative AI, and it is much more powerful than a generative AI. Okay. An agentic AI can do without work autonomously. Okay. An agentic AI can make decisions and take actions. Wonderful. Absolutely. I love that. A generative AI is just the response generation, whereas an agentic AI can do the work. I can give you a simple example. I want to travel to, let's say, Switzerland. And I want probably a 7-day itinerary, maybe a budget itinerary, and a very good itinerary, the places that I should visit, how can I do a budget travel from India to Switzerland and all of that. Now, it's not very new. All of you would be already using AI. You can go to ChatGPT and you can say that, hey, I'm traveling to Switzerland on these dates. Give me a day-wise itinerary. Give me what best hotels that I should book, what good flights that I can take, what are the economical flights that I can book, what are the budget hotels, but very good at kind of service. Help me out with that particular 7-day itinerary. No, this is not something which is new. We have been doing it for quite some time now. Whether it is GPT or a Gemini, or you talk about Claude, they will all give you that day-wise itinerary. But would they execute this itinerary for you? Obviously not. They are not going to execute this itinerary for you. They're just going to generate. Now we want someone to execute this itinerary. You still have to go and book flights. You still have to go and book your hotels. You still have to kind of go ahead and apply for a visa. You still have to go ahead and kind of do all that executions. And probably when you are enjoying in Switzerland, you still need to write an out of office email, handle your customers in your absence, and do all of that. What if you can have agents doing this for you? There's an agent which goes ahead and books a flight for you. There's an agent which goes ahead and kind of books hotels for you. There's an agent which goes ahead and writes an out of office for you when you are enjoying in Switzerland. And not just out of office, probably this agent is answering at least the most basic questions to your customers, to your stakeholders, to your team members while you are enjoying on your holiday. And that is the difference that agentic AI brings to you. We often say agents and agentic AI. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between agents and agentic AI? Are they same? Are they different? Think about it. Is agents same than the agentic AI? We have two keywords here, agents and agentic AI. Are they same? Are they different? Okay, most of you are saying they are different. So then what is the difference? That's my next question. Okay, agent is a worker that performs. Okay, not bad. I love that. An agentic AI can orchestrate multiple agents to perform a complex task. Absolutely. I'll give you an example, and probably that will make you clear. I'll keep giving you examples. That examples will make you remember it for a lifetime. Say, folks, I want to travel to airport. Again, I want to travel to Switzerland. So obviously, I want to go to the airport and I want to book a cab. Can an agent do it? Yes, an agent can go ahead and kind of book a cab for me. That is an agent. I can say that, hey, I've got an agent, and I tell my agent, hey, agent, can you go ahead and book a flight, book a ride for me? Maybe Uber, or in India, we have got multiple players like Ola and Rapido, but probably you would know about Uber. It can go ahead and kind of execute it. That is agent. But what if the agent books a ride for me? It, it books a cab for me, and the driver cancelled that ride from his or her side. Is the work completed? Obviously, it is not completed. Then I have to again go back to the agent and ask the agent to rebook a flight and do all of that. Or what if, the agent goes ahead and books a ride, and probably I meet a lot of traffic on the road while traveling to airport, and I miss that particular flight. So an agent may do something for you, but it may not be an optimized one. Now let's see how an agentic AI will work in this particular same use case. Understand the difference. An agentic AI is a field where you have multiple agents that can work together. Like someone said, it could be a workflow, it could be an orchestration where multiple agents can work together and they can kind of take decisions. For example, in this use case, now in the agentic AI, I might write to my agentic AI application that I want to reach airport. I've got a flight at, let's say, 9 p.m. today, and I want to probably reach probably 2 hours before, or I want to reach 3 hours before, considering it's an international flight, and I want to reach. Now, look how agentic AI would work here. It is probably going to now do a lot of thinking and reasoning, and it is going to go ahead and now run multiple parallel agents working together. For example, there could be one agent which will probably take my source and a destination. It figure out how far my destination is from a source. It will then do an analysis. Hey, what could be the best kind of a transport mode? Would it be probably a cab, or it could be probably taking a metro, or it could be probably taking any other public transport, or it could be something else. If it is going to be, there could be another agent which could probably be analyzing the traffic on the road. There could be another agent that probably is looking into the cabs, and it is probably doing a comparison between the different cabs. For example, in India, we have got operators like Uber, Ola, and Rapido. It will do a comparison which can give me the best kind of a pricing. And the decisions of all the agents then probably would do something for me, maybe book a cab for me, maybe in the kind of ensuring that I reach at least 3 hours before, ensuring that there is no traffic on the road. It does everything and probably then says, hey, we have booked a flight for you and you should comfortably reach 3 hours before. We have also kept a buffer for 30 minutes in case you kind of there is a kind of traffic on the road and all of that. Do you see the difference between the two? The first one, when I said agent, go ahead and book a ride. It will do the ride booking, fire and forget. The flight or a ride gets cancelled. It doesn't matter to that particular agent. It thinks that it is fire and forget. But on the other side, the agentic AI, it's a field which is doing that reasoning, thinking. It is kind of spawning multiple agents, maybe an agent which is taking care of, the shortest distance, an agent which is doing a comparison between different taxi cabs, an agent which is kind of checking what could be the best mode of transport, an agent which is then going ahead and booking a kind of a cab for me. All of them working together and ensuring that I reach probably 3 hours prior to my flight, keeping a buffer of 30 minutes for me in case there is a kind of a traffic. Do you think that makes more sense in this particular case? That's the world that we are living into, folks. And that is where we are getting us closer to strong AI. Do you get that term? Why did I start with a narrow AI and a strong AI? This world of generative AI and then the agentic AI is getting us closer to agentic AI. Now, if you understand that world of agentic AI, punch yes in the chat box, folks, if you are with me as of now. If you understand that complete evolution of how we are heading towards the world of strong AI. Super. So now, folks, I've got a second question for you. Again, it is like a basic that should be known once we get into Claude and work on it. Can there be a human in the loop as agentic AI still may make mistakes? I completely agree with you, Dinah. So we have got a concept called as a evaluation. So when we create our agents or we design our LLM powered applications or we create agentic AI applications, we don't just go ahead and deploy that applications. We also need to kind of evaluate those applications. So there are multiple ways to evaluate. Now, this is not a technical training, but when I do that, there are multiple evaluations that you do it. So there is something called as human as a judge, right? Or it could be LLM as a judge. LLM as a judge means I can have one LLM evaluating the answers of the another LLM. Human as a judge means I can have one the human evaluating the kind of the answers of the LLM. So you can always have human in the loop, and there are techniques. You can do that while you are getting the answers. You can do that while monitoring the responses. You can absolutely have human in the loop. I will talk about it in the later sessions. How can I do that? So there's a question. Anil is thinking fast forward. He's saying, okay, Sanjay, agentic AI took care of everything. But now what if the car breaks down? How agent will help me as an alternative solution to reach the airport? Well, Anil, probably, I don't know. That was probably just a way of explaining you the difference between a generative AI and agentic AI. But you never know. Now there could be one agent which is completely tracking, you know, whether the particular person reached airport, or if the person has not reached airport, the agent has got a plan B for me. Probably some other kind of a cab which can pick it up and all of that. So that also can happen, right? In that particular agentic AI world, you never know. There could be one agent which is completely tracking the my ride. Did I reach on time? If not, if I'm stuck, is there any alternative plan B that you can have it? But good question. You're thinking forward. What do I do in that particular case? Okay. Now I've got another question over here, right? And absolutely agree, Rohan. There could be an agent which is tracking the condition of the car, maybe what is the model of the car, what is the kind of a likelihood of this cab or a ride would reach airport. All of that can be taken care. But you never know. Certain things is beyond our control. Ultimately, understand humans are humans, while machines are trying to simulate humans. Certain things cannot be controlled, is beyond our control. You can't control it. The car has to break down, it will break down, whatever you do it. And what if it breaks down in a kind of a place where you don't have a mobile network also? Such things can happen. So certain things are beyond our control over here. When we work with all kind of these kind of automations and all of that, certain things are bound to happen. Now I've got another question for you. I'm going to now take you to the world of agents here. Folks, we often talk about automation and agents. My question to each one of you here is, what is the difference between automation and agents? How is automation different from agents? Is automation same as agents? Or is automation same as agentic AI? Sorry if I'm using that word interchangeably. Question. Okay. No, agents use automation. Both are same. Agents use automation. Automation is self-execution. Okay. Okay. Agent does automation. Agentic AI comes with decision making. I love that answer, Raji. Okay. Now, this is something that we have to understand. Most people get confused here. Again, folks, automation is not a new world for us. I love that automation is predefined. Automation is not new for us. Again, automation is something that we have been doing for decades. I don't know how many of you know tools like RPA, robotic process automation, or how many of you know Microsoft Power Automate, or there are so many online tools that are available for automation like make.com, Anytane, and all of that, where you can do a process automation easily. So then what is this agentic AI or the world of agents doing it over here? How is that different? Let me show you one whiteboard for it. So I'm going to show you a few whiteboards here so that you're clear. You understand the world of agents very clear. That is what is the core crux, right? It's important that your fundamentals are super clear. So see, the world of automation, as somebody said, it is rule based. It is rule based. All right. It is rule based. It is more of fixed. It is predefined. It is pre-configured, like you said it. It is just rule based. If this is true, do this. If that is true, do this. There's nothing which is probably non-deterministic. Your automation Let me put it in simple words. It is deterministic. That's a simple word that I can give it to you. That's a simple word that I can give it to you. Now, some of you may say, Sanjay, but I didn't understand. What do you mean by deterministic? So let me again throw some example to you. Like I said, an example would stay with you. Suppose, folks, I'm a company, I'm an online firm, and I provide consulting to some organizations. So there are different customers who can sign up for my service. There are companies from financial domain, retail domain. There are companies from other domains. They reach out to me and they buy my services and offer consulting services to them. And I'm growing, right? Every day I'm getting new customers and I'm acquiring new customers. Customers are signing up for my consulting service online and I'm flourishing. I'm enjoying. But I want that, while my customer base is increasing, I want to automate few things. So I want to automate my customer onboarding process. What do I mean by customer onboarding process? The moment a new customer joins me or rather signs up for my service, I want to welcome that customer. So I want to write a welcome email to the customer. Welcome to my company, and I'm so happy to help you. I'm so happy to kind of work with you, blah, 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 so on and so forth. I want to send a welcome kit to that customer. So I've got a fixed welcome kit that I want to send it to my customer. I also want to assign somebody from my team who can be assigned to this customer so that he or she can work with that customer closely, can arrange some meetings with that customer, understand, and can start working with that customer. And I want to automate this entire process. Is that something needs AI? Maybe yes, maybe not. This is something that we have been again doing it for decades. There are so many tools like RPA, the robotic process automation, Microsoft Power Automate. There are a bunch of other tools that organizations were using to automate these business processes. Say you want to automate the employee onboarding process completely. People have been doing this for quite some time. But remember, this is all deterministic. There are fixed set of steps. Customer onboards, step one, write a welcome email. Okay, I'll do that. Step two, customer needs a welcome kit. So pick up the welcome kit, which could be some kind of artifacts, send it to him. Go to the meeting scheduler, schedule a meeting, assign a, kind of my employee who can work with that customer, do that, and probably, create one repository for that customer. What is a big deal? It is just a fixed set of steps. But now the same workflow, if I want to do it with the world of agentic AI and the agents, now comes the beauty. It is not deterministic, it's going to be non-deterministic. The word non-deterministic is it's not predefined, it's not rule-based, it is not fixed. It could be a different flow for different kinds of customers. For example, a financial customer is onboarded. Now my agent who comes into picture with the agentic AI field, he will do a research of that particular customer. What is that customer doing? What is his nature of business? Is the customer a profitable customer? What is his revenue? Is he listed on the stock market? What is his pain areas? He will do that research. And then doing that research, he will write a very dynamic email for that customer, not that static email, a boring email, welcome to our service, do or do, we'll help you. No, it will do that, put that research into that email and welcome that particular customer. He has to send the welcome kit. Not necessarily it will be a static welcome kit. It could be a different welcome kit for a financial domain customer or a retail domain customer or the customers. Even in the financial domain, it could be different welcome kits for different customers. Do you see that? When we are arranging a meeting, we will then put some dynamism there as well. I will look for an employee who's an expert in this particular domain and he can be mapped to this particular service. Do you see that non-deterministic nature of business? And that is what makes my agentic AI a kind of a different than the automation. It is not a fixed rule-based deterministic. It is non-deterministic. And the people who are new to this particular world, agents and agentic AI, you would be thinking, but Sanjay, how is that possible? How does it add dynamism to it? So, question, if you have been already working on agents, people who probably have been exposed to agents and agentic AI, what do you think, folks? What will make this agentic AI possible? Come on, now we are getting into it. How would agents work? How can I enable my agents to work in this non-deterministic way? How is that possible? A different customer gets different email. A different customer gets different welcome kit. A different dynamic thing work. LLM, adding validations, lots of data. Go on, folks. I want to understand your thought process here. That's very important for us for this training. RAG, use LLMs and RAG. Well, not really. RAG is for different purpose, right? RAG is a complete different architecture. It is basically how can you use your contextual information, dynamic processing. Okay. Probably let me put it in a different way. What comprises my agent? What are the different components of the agent? That's the word that I was looking at. Models, memory, tool. Look here, folks. You are going to work with Claude Code, maybe a Claude Cowork to a certain extent. All of this is agentic AI. What forms an agent? It's very important for us to understand. An agent is something that gets triggered on some event. An agent is something that gets triggered on some event. I fire some prompt, agent gets triggered. Or maybe it could be some external event which triggers an agent. But what does an agent have? If it is going to be non-deterministic, that's what makes my agent intelligent. So it needs some brain, a human-like brain. And what is a brain? A brain is my one of those LLMs. It could be GPT, it could be Claude, Claude Opus, or a Claude Sonnet, or whatever that you have it. It could be any other model like Llama, or maybe Amazon Bedrock, Nova Pro, Titan, or Mistral, DeepSeek, Grok, Gemini, whatever is that. It will have some large language model which is going to be the main brain. That's the one which thinks, reasons, and takes actions. But to perform some task, it needs tools. Like I said, it has to write an email, welcome email. It needs a tool, Gmail, Outlook, or whatever that case may be. Or if it has to send a welcome kit, it might need some other tool. Or if it has to update this customer information, it might want to update it to one of my Google Sheets or maybe on a SharePoint portal. So it needs some tools. Or if this has to do a research about that customer, it needs an access to LinkedIn or maybe any other API like a SERP API for browsing. So it needs some kind of tools to perform that actions. So this brain decides what is to be done. It will plan, reason, and then it will go ahead and kind of use the tools to do certain things here. But the point is, Sanjay, how would it be non-deterministic? I understand there's a brain, which is my LLM. I know there are tools to perform some actions, but Sanjay, I'm still not clear. How would it go ahead and kind of take actions? How would it go ahead and kind of use these tools? And that is where there is a planning framework that is assigned to your agent. There is a reasoning framework that is assigned to your agent. Now, there are multiple reasoning frameworks, like there is planning plus execution framework. But the most beautiful framework that is available today is a REACT. The word REACT stands for reason plus act. It simply means whenever you give a prompt to an agent, for example, I say, hey, agent, can you go ahead and book a flight for me from this place to this place? And it has to be economical. And at the same time, it has to be kind of maybe a non-stop. And please make sure, these are the basic things that you have in the flight. It is to reason and act. So the reason and act means it is going to think, hey, this is what the user is looking for. To do this, I will have to do this. And to do this, I will need some tool. So it's thinking and then it is taking an action with a tool. And then after taking an action, maybe my task is not yet completed. Remember, I gave you an example of I want to book a ride. That was agent. But then an agentic AI is going to do this end to end. So it is then going to observe, think, action, observe. Did I do a right thing? Is the task completed as of now? If not, again reiterate. Think, act, observe. Is the task completed? No, reiterate. Think, act, observe. Not yet completed? Think, act, observe. Unless it feels that my job is completed, my task is completed, and I go ahead and kind of answer back to my user. And that planning framework is something your agent would need it for its execution. And finally, it will need a memory. Now, folks, in the world of AI, we have got two things. We have got a term called as multi-turn conversations. A multi-turn or single-turn conversations. Any idea what is the difference between the two? Simple means just one prompt and a response. Absolutely, Rohan. So there is an LLM which just takes a prompt and it gives a response. That is single turn. But today, when you work with agentic AI, it's going to be multi-turn. There has to be constant flow of conversation between your agent and you, or maybe an agentic application and you. For example, you might say, hey, what is the temperature in Mumbai today? It gives the temperature. And then you ask the second question, is it going to rain today? Now, what do you mean by is it going to rain today? Where? Obviously in Mumbai, because my first question I said Mumbai. So that is a connected conversation. And this conversation might go on for, let's say, 5 minutes. And that is what is called as a multi-turn conversation. There would be my entire session that I would have with my agentic application. I need to save that multi-turn conversation. I will want to save that into my context window and do all of that. Absolutely, Shivam. And for that, I need a memory. It could be a short-term memory, like for that session. It could be a long-term memory across different sessions. And that is what an agent needs for its execution. A brain, a planning framework, a memory, and a tool. Now, probably it's more theoretical as of now. Let me now show you something. I'm not taking you to the Claude. Once you understand this, working with Claude is not a great deal. So we'll see that. How many of you have seen any agent before, or you have created any agent? Not necessarily created, but you have kind of worked with some agent. You are a consumer of some agent. Yes or no in the chat box. And I will accordingly then show you something. Yes or a no, yes or a no. Alexa is not an agent. Alexa is just a simple natural language processing application. Okay. Most of you are saying no, no, yes, yes, yes. Okay. No, no, no. GitHub Copilot. Okay. GitHub Copilot is not an agent. Okay. Well, GitHub Copilot can work in the agentic mode. That is possible. Okay. Oracle Agentic AI, not bad. Okay. Let me then show you, if you have not seen it, I don't mind showing it. In fact, it would be open over here. See this. Have a look here, folks. I am going to take maybe a very small agent created on N18. I don't know how many of you have worked with N18. And N18 is a no-code, low-code way of creating an agents. Without writing a single line of code, you can create and configure agents. For example, you want to create an agent where you just give some topic, and I said that, it can create a complete client onboarding tool for you. Yes, it can do a complete client onboarding tool for you. It can be done in an agentic AI way. I write a lot of LinkedIn posts related to AI just to kind of inspire people about AI. Uh, my motto is that, right, people should kind of flourish with AI. So I put a lot of posts. Every day there are single or double posts that you will see it. Now I don't write AI to write these posts, to be very honest. I've got my N18 agent created. I just probably hear about some a fresh topic. What is in the news? I just give that topic, and this end-to-end agent does a research on that particular topic, creates a LinkedIn post for me, not just creates a post, it automatically it publishes onto LinkedIn. And I say that, publish it at 12 p.m., maybe 1 p.m. every day or a 6 p.m. every day. Sometimes I keep changing the timings, all of that. So I just give a topic, maybe what is hot today, maybe, the Iran US war today, or maybe a US China meeting that we had it. It kind of goes ahead, does the research, and it creates that post for me. Now, that kind of agentic AI applications, kind of workflows that you can create it easily using anything. I can show it to you. I've got some of them. So I won't show you very complex. I've got the very complex workflows that I can show you. Do I have something simple? Oh, I have this here. So let me show this to you. This will make the same diagram that I was showing you. You'll be able to see this here. A simple hello world agent. Hello world. Look here. Now I'm going to delete few things from here. Let me go ahead and kind of delete the memory. I don't need it at this point. So like I said, you see this is what I was trying to show you. An agent has a brain. So in my case, the brain is an OpenAI LLM that I have associated here. Can you see that? Yeah, the name of the tool is N18. Some of you are asking N18.io. Well, we are not going to cover N18. I'm just trying to make sure that you know agents. If you know agents, Claude is not going to be a great deal. You will know how agent thinks. That's the kind of an understanding that I'm trying to develop today. So this is going to be your LLM over here. We have got a LLM, which is my brain. Can you see this? I'm using GPT 4.1 mini as my LLM, which is my brain. And then I've got two tools, SERP API or a calculator. The SERP API would be used when I want to do some browsing, search something on the internet. This tool would be used. Calculator would be used when I want to perform some calculation. And then I've got a trigger. A trigger is whenever I post some message over, and that is going to trigger. I have not attached the memory. The reason I have not attached the memory, I wanted to show you why memory is required. I want to show you why memory is required. So let me show you what happens without memory. Why do I need memory? And you will then understand that multi-turn conversation concept. Now, this is completely non-deterministic. There is no workflow written. I am not telling my LLM that you should call calculator or you should call SERP API or you should call a Gmail. I am not telling this guy. Let this guy decide what is to be done. It has got its internal reasoning framework and it has got its own reasoning framework, which is React. So I don't need to associate that. Now see what happens. I'm going to put some message to this agent. So I'll start with this chat message here. Let me go ahead and start. I'll say open chat. And I'm going to say, hi, the agent will get triggered. You can see the agent got triggered and the agent just said hello to me. How can I assist you today? So when the message was received, the LLM got the message. It said, this is just hi. Even I can answer. I don't need any tool for it. So it did not use any tool. It went ahead and kind of just said, hello, how can I assist you today? But if I ask now, what is the weather in Mumbai today? You see, it goes into my SERP API. It used a tool SERP API. I never told my brain or my agent that you have to use SERP API. It is not rule based. It is not deterministic. It went ahead and executed a SERP API. Can you see this? So it's saying today in Mumbai, the weather is partly sunny and you have a temperature in Fahrenheit, which is this. There is a 10% chance of kind of humidity, all of that over here, precipitation and all of that. If I ask, hey, what is 10 raised to 255 and then minus 1 from that? Needless to say, the message will go to your LLM, it will reason it, it should then go to a calculator. You see, it got the calculator over here and it gave me a kind of a result over here. Maybe a very big result, but it did give me some result. It's not fixed. It is not fixed, my dear folks. Right? I never said you have to use SERP API or you have to use your calculator. That is what is the non-deterministic nature. It's not that I said, hey, if it is a calculation, use this. If it is any other query, I never wrote that logic. There is no logic that I'm hiding it from you. I've just created a simple agent. I've just given some tools to it. If I say that, hey, what is the temperature in Mumbai after getting the temperature, convert this to Fahrenheit, sorry, Celsius, it's already giving me in Fahrenheit, and then minus 255, or rather, let's say minus 2 from this, and then give me a power of 8 for this. Now look at the prompt. I have just randomly created some prompt. I'm saying, get me a temperature in Mumbai. After you get the temperature, convert this to Celsius, and then minus 2 from this, and then give me a power of 8 for this. What do you think is going to happen, folks, for this prompt? Now that I've shown you two prompts, what do you think is going to happen over here? Absolutely. Both the tools should be ideally utilized. It should go ahead, first use a SERP API to get the kind of a temperature. It should then use a calculator to perform this. Let's go ahead and see that if it does that. So it goes ahead and uses the SERP API. Can you see this? And then it goes ahead and uses the calculator as a secondary one. Can you see this? It goes ahead and gives me this. Says Mumbai temperature is this. After converting, I get this into Celsius. I subtracted 2 and the result is this. Now I'm giving value of this raised to the power of 8 and that comes out to be something like this. That is non-deterministic. There's nothing fixed over here. That is what I'm trying to explain you from the agent's perspective. You are not here to learn N8N or agents, but I'm trying to make you and understand how this particular world of agents and agentic AI work over here. Let me then ask the next focus. Now I want to show you one more part over here. Manish is asking, do you have to specify the tools? You just have to attach the tools. You don't have to say that which tools have to be used, right? You don't have to say what tools you have to use it. You don't have to. That is what non-deterministic is. Now understand, folks, one more component. So you understood tools and you understood the brain. Now let me bring in something else. I'm going to say, what is the temperature in New York today. It goes ahead, uses a SERP API as I was expecting, and it says 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you. I'm then going to ask, is it going to rain today? Question, folks. What should be an answer? What tool it would use it? Question, what tool it should use? SERP API, okay. People said it will ask for a location. See this. And you were right, folks. The people who said it is asked for the location. That's exactly happened. It says, currently, I don't have an access to your location. Can you tell me your city or a location? Are Baba, I just told you what is the temperature in New York today. So obviously, I'm asking about it. Obviously, I'm asking about New York. Is it going to rain? And do you know, understand what is multi-turn conversation? So far, when I was making single turn conversation, I was doing all the conversations with no problems. I asked 10 questions, it gave me answers. But the moment I gave something different, which it did not relate to it, it did not make sense. It did not have that multi turn conversation capability. And that is where a memory comes into picture over here. You were right, folks. A memory comes into picture over here. For those of you who were thinking, why memory? So we can always add a memory. There are multiple types of memory. Let me just go ahead and add the simple memory. That's the most simplest one. I added. And now let's see that. Can I do the same thing now? So I ask the same question now. How's the weather in NY today? It goes ahead. It's very good at natural language processing. So it will go get me some answer. The SERP API would get me something. And here we go. It says blah, 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 this much temperature, so on and so forth. Now, if I'm going to ask, is it going to rain today? Same question. I'm not changing. It should give me an answer now. And that is what memory comes into picture. Can you see this? So it says hardly any chance of rain today in New York, maybe 5%. So it is unlikely to rain today. That's what I call it as a multi-turn conversations. The memory makes it possible over here. My dear folks, did that demonstration, people who are absolutely new to the world of agents and agentic AI, I'm not kind of training you on anything. Well, that would be a different kind of a training. What I want to show you here is, did you understand that agent and the components of the agent graphically in this particular case? So Manish is asking, what if there are similar tools? Then remember, it is non-deterministic. It is going to take whatever it feels at best of that particular time. You can also create agents where you can tie that tools. For example, you can say in this scenario, use this, but that will be like hard coding. That will be like deterministic. But without that, it is going to randomly pick up that particular. Make sense? Wonderful. I have done the first part of the case. People have to think about agents. Then only you will appreciate Claude. A Claude is an agentic way of working, whether you work with Claude Code or Cowork or Claude Chat. I hope the Claude thing is clear. The agents and agentic AI thing is clear. The second part of the session, I'm going to spend maybe more than an hour on now getting you some kind of more foundations of the Claude. Okay, so let's go to the part two of today's day, where I now want you to kind of slowly go inside Claude. The foundations are done. You know what's basically agents, agentic AI, the components of it, the execution of it, how does it work, what makes an AI agent, you know that. Claude Code is typically created on the same background, whether you work with Claude Cowork or you work with Cloud kind of a chat, or you work with Claude Code, or you work with Cloud Design, which is a new kind of an introduction. All of them, they work on the same fundamentals. So I'm going to go ahead. I've created a quick concepts related to this. So let me open up and I'm going to put this whiteboard for you inside the folder. But let me just open this for you first. Here we go. Now I will keep creating this whiteboards for you. I will set up some quizzes for you. We'll have fun quizzes just to kind of recap those particular concepts. And these whiteboards will help you in kind of quickly recapping certain concepts here. Now, let's talk a bit about what is Claude, right? Before that, a little story on Anthropic. Anthropic is the company, is a parent company who is typically behind Claude, who's the kind of the company who has built Claude. Let's quickly understand how did this kind of Claude as a tool come into purpose? What was the purpose of the founders when they introduced Claude as a beautiful agentic tool for doing different tasks? So before we open up any tools and I show you the Claude environment, let us understand from where Claude comes from. This matters because the philosophy of the company, whatever company that you're working with, this directly shapes how the product behaves. How is it different from other large language models? Some of you would be using GPT or a chat GPT for that matter, or you would be using Gemini for that particular matter. Question number one, if I have to ask you, I'm damn sure you would have used some kind of a LLM, may not be directly, but you would have used applications like ChatGPT or a Gemini, or maybe a Claude directly, Claude Chat, Claude Cowork, or you would have worked with, uh, the Copilot, or you would have worked with the DeepSeek, or you would have worked with Grok AI, or you would have worked with Perplexity. You would have worked with some kind of an application for sure. Now let's compare some of these models. First question, how would you compare these? If I have to compare, say, a GPT versus Gemini versus Claude versus, say, a Grok AI and versus DeepSeek also. I'm just taking the top players here. Question, how would you differentiate these different kinds of your large language models here? I'll wait for a few seconds to see some answers in the chat box. Okay, I'm already reading some. Ability, speed, price, number. Okay, let me reframe the question. I'm going to ask you, in what situation you would use what? When would you prefer using a GPT? When would you prefer using a Gemini? When would you prefer using a Claude? Are they different? Are they same? I already see one answer. Same purpose, probably investors are different. Okay. But the capability would be different. When would you use what? Use Claude when we require agents. Okay. Claude for automation, GPT for the content. Okay. Based on my need. Okay. Every model is different and efficient for different purposes. Okay. Claude for deep analysis. Absolutely. Now, first question to be asked. So, where I'm heading to now? I'm heading to why Claude? Now you know agentic, the world of agents and agentic AI. Now I'm trying to address why Claude. So, folks, the world is crowded with different large language models, different applications that you use it, each one of them trying to compete with each other, but you have to understand your purpose. Now, this is my way of kind of reading these different LLMs. I would say use GPT for your general purpose task. General purpose. For example, you want to generate something, write an email, categorize something, label something, quickly generate something, write a post, all that generic task, GPT is very good at it. And it kind of is very simple in terms of language and all of that. GPT is good for your everyday task. You want to perform your everyday task? GPT is awesome. Gemini again can be used for daily purpose tasks, image generations with the Gemini based models, video generation. It can also be used for deep research. But then the main advantage of Gemini is that this is a part of your Google ecosystem. It's a part of your Google ecosystem. So if you have to work with a Google Files, or if you have to go work with Google Sheets, or if you have to work with Gmail, or if you have to work with YouTube, I mean, the entire Google ecosystem, Gemini fits in really, really well. So the people who work with Google Workspaces, they probably feel Gemini is the best because it fits really well in that ecosystem. Let's come to our friend Claude, which we are going to double click in some time. Claude, on the other side, well, it can be used for your daily task. But then if you're going to use Claude for your daily task, let me tell you, you are underestimating the power of Claude. Claude came into existence probably after OpenAI. I'm going to give you the history also. But then it came into existence for two things. One, a deep research, and maybe a longer context window. I'm going to very shortly talk about what is context, tokens, context window, because I will keep referring to these words every day. And I don't want you to kind of get confused there. So it has got a longer context window. A longer context window means a more tokens, input tokens and output tokens that it can keep in memory for processing. Sometimes you would have seen, you give a very large document to your GPT, right? You give probably a 300-page PPT to a GPT, and you say that, perform these tasks. A GPT will miss many parts. It's called as lost in between. In AI world, we call it as lost in between. It will keep ignoring multiple parts. It will only consider key parts, some slides, and it will probably ignore the other parts. That's because it doesn't have that longer context memory. Claude, right from the beginning, had its good context memory. Now, GPT has got certain models where you have got a larger context memory, but Claude came into existence with a deep research scenarios, which means it needs that longer context memory. Second, Claude came into existence with always probably a thinking of agentic capabilities. Like somebody said, I want to create agents or I want to kind of work with agents. Claude works at its best. Now, within Claude also, I'm going to talk about what are the different models. Like we have Sonnet, we have got Opus. What would you use for what particular purpose? But that was a basic kind of a necessity of the Claude. Grok, which comes from our own Elon Musk. The Grok is a very, very kind of, I would say, a bold AI, which nobody else can speak. Grok can do it. It's a bold AI. In the sense, a Grok is the only model or only LLM, I would say, which has got a real-time access to the information. That's because it has got an access to X, Twitter. It is by Elon Musk. So it has got an kind of an access to Twitter and X. So if you want to kind of do some analysis in real time, say you are typically doing some analysis on what is happening on a particular issue or a particular conversation or a particular maybe a event that has just happened. Now, because it has got an access to an X and a Twitter, it becomes that real time. It has got that real time access. A DeepSeek from China, it is good for, again, deep research and more importantly, for logical reasoning. In the sense, things like mathematics, logical reasoning, coding can be done better in this kind of a models over here. Just kind of giving you that difference between them. So coming back to Claude, this is where we are heading to a discussion here. Think about it. A Claude is the one which has got the reasoning models. There are multiple models, we'll talk about it, but the capabilities that we will use is the reasoning models. All right. The capabilities that I am going to use is agentic capabilities. I am going to use probably for code generation, application generation, maybe an enterprise application generation, which means I need an access to a longer code basis. Imagine my code base is probably a huge code base. I've got hundreds and thousands of my code files that I have it, which is probably in my GitHub repository. And I need to kind of use that as my context. I want to keep that in memory. So you need a Claude kind of a model which has got a huge context memory over. So that's something that I wanted to show you. A brief of a history. Does anyone know who were the kind of founders of Claude? Let's kind of at least know the names. Who were the founders of Claude? Does anyone know? How did it come into picture? They've got a huge success story. Imagine a company founded in 2021 and today in 2026, they are close to $400 billion. Now that is like a huge success story. So anyone knows what's the story? Absolutely. It comes from OpenAI itself. Now, if you don't know the story, let me tell you. So I think somewhere in 2021 itself, the OpenAI probably was flourishing at that point of time. Yes, the CEO is Dario. You're right. If I'm not mistaken, start of 2021, the two siblings, yes, both working in OpenAI, both employees of OpenAI. One is Dario, as Dinah rightly mentioned, and the second one is Daniela. They left OpenAI and they were at kind of leadership positions. Dario was the vice president or president of the research, right? Research is a very important wing in the AI companies. So Dario was already at a leadership position here. And they left to create something on their own. They wanted that, they saw that the AI industry is moving so fast. And they quickly realized while LLMs are good, but AI will need something called as a safety. So there will be enough attention and a focus on the safety. While generations is good, agentic capabilities are good. What about responsible AI? What about probably, talking about safety? And that was a thought process when they left OpenAI and then they kind of founded Anthropic. So the important thing that they always had in mind that they are not just going to create a company, they are going to create a PBC. People who are joining from US, you would know what is PBC. P stands for Public Benefit Corporation. If you don't know what is a PBC is a type of a company structure where they don't just want to make profits. They also think about the society, a public, a social benefit. So they also think about the environmental impact, ethics, employee well-being, education, sustainability. They think about all the factors and not just making profit. And that was a thought process that they had when they founded a company called as Claude. So that's the kind of a small history. If you don't know, 2021, it got founded, 7 researchers. The valuation was just 124 million. 2023, they had the first public release of Anthropic Claude. Claude 3 family got released in 2024. They kind of clearly beat GPT-4. And you would have seen that at that point of time, the OpenAI stock kind of crashed for some time. Probably then it surged, but then again came back. In 2026, we are probably valuing this company as close to $400 billion. Now, that's like a huge success story for the company, which is just 5 years old. Now, why is that so? Let's look into it. So, like I said, by the way, if you are wondering from where did the word Claude come into picture, anybody knows what is Claude? Claude. Let me tell you that as well. Why should I leave that behind? Any idea what is Claude? Okay. Yes, it's a French name. So Claude comes from a person, I don't remember the full name, but I think it is Claude Shannon. You can go ahead and kind of Google this. The name comes after a famous mathematician who created information theory. And the name of the model is after that particular mathematician. You can do a research on that particular thing. Now, already told you about that brief history. Let's get into business over here. So, folks, there is a technical difference. If I talk about the Claude models, there are three models that probably we talk about largely. There are some legacy-based models as well, but let me talk about some uh, kind of the model family that we have in the world of cloud. The first is Opus 4.7. Then we have got the Sonnet 4.6. This is probably a newer in the space. Then you have got the Haiku 4.5. And there are legacy versions, there are legacy models that are available over there. But before I go inside this, I did tell you that there's a technical difference between Claude and the AI models. And if I want to give you one technical difference, understand it this way. Most AI companies train their models using something called as a technique called as RLHF. If you don't know about this, no worries. It's called as reinforcement learning from human feedback. This means that they hire thousands of people to read the AI responses, and probably then they make the AI learn basis the feedback. Maybe if it is doing something incorrect, it will be penalized. If it is doing something good, it would be, kind of rewarded. So they are based on that same principles. Anthropic, they did something different. Now, you don't have to go ahead and do something, go into the depth. We are not here to create a model. We are going to be consumers of the model. But the point that I'm trying to bring you here is the moment Anthropic was found, they had a little different approach. While they were also using RLHF, but they wrote a different set of principles. Like I said, they wanted to create a PBC. So they created a constitution for their AI models. What does the constitution means? They wrote a set of principles. And the principles say that this model has to be helpful. At no times they can create harmful things. They'll always be honest about what they do not know, which means they will not hallucinate. They will respect the privacy of the individuals. So they first trained Claude on that particular principles. So you see the difference in the approach. The other models, they were first trained using the RLHF technique or whatever technique, I don't care. And then they were probably exposed to some kind of safety measures, or they were kind of put in some kind of a safety, handlers after creation. But Anthropic, right from the start, they had created some set of principles. We call that as a constitution for the AI. And they were first taught that probably be helpful. You can't create any harmful content or a toxic content. You will be honest at all the times. You will respect the privacy. And then that constitution principles were then probably used in their training process. So that is a slight difference that I wanted to highlight over here. Now, Kevins is asking, does that mean that they will not hallucinate? No, I did not say that. They can hallucinate. I'm not saying that the Claude models cannot hallucinate. I'm not saying that the Claude model cannot misbehave. At times they might, but the chances are minimal. if I compare it with the previous models, it is like this. The previous models was first trained for doing something, and then they were exposed to that particular guardrails and other things that they should be taking care. But Anthropic, right from the start, they were first trained on that principles, and then they were exposed to that particular other trainings over here. So the chances of doing certain things bad is very minimal compared to the other models. That's what I wanted to tell you. Typically over here, they call it as constitutional AI. That is what I was saying. The set of principles which we call it as a constitutional AI. Absolutely dynamic. So that's the difference that we have. Now, if I have to tell you about the different models that we have, it the Opus 4.7, most powerful model. Now, needless to say, when I say most powerful, needless to say, it would be expensive also. So I've also put a cost over here. What is Opus? It's a flagship model of Claude, 1 million context, which means a very good context memory. I'm going to talk about the context in the next few slides over here. I'll just kind of expand this so that you can see that a smaller fonts also, it does help you. All right. So longer context, 1 million context, right? And makes it really kind of good for adaptive thinking. So if you have to use it for longer hours, you're performing some complex task, which is a decomposition of multiple tasks. You have to do some complex debugging in your code. Opus is very good at it. Then comes a Sonnet. Again, 1 million context window, but a slightly smaller output window. You can see the output window here is much bigger than this. I would say double than this. A little less expensive compared to the flagship model Opus 4.7. And it can be used for tasks like daily coding. Maybe you're not creating an adaptive, I would say an enterprise grade application. You're not kind of creating an end-to-end application, and which is like running the complete life cycle. You don't have a longer code base. You are just using it as an assistant, as an coding assistant. Good for that. It can be used for that smaller task. Then you've got the Haiku, which is probably the cheapest, and more than anything, it is the fastest. And the simple reason is it's a small context window, which means it can process minimal, unlike this, which are having 1 million context window, right? And because it is a smaller context, needless to say, the cost also is cheaper. So there's a difference between the two. So in short, if you don't want to go into so many technicalities here, simple thing is for your daily task, some kind of quick task, Haiku. For a daily AI assistant, Sonnet. But if you are creating something complex, maybe you're going to create an enterprise application which is going to work on multiple modules. You need a larger complex processing to be done. Use Opus. But don't forget, the bigger the model that you're using, it is probably, the cost also could be a factor, right? So let me give you some examples and you can just throw some kind of answers to me. Let's see this. Imagine, folks, you have to create a distributed application. And this distributed application has to be used with 15 microservices. And it can have intermittent failures, happen during peak traffic, all of that. So you paste that 10,000 lines of logs and ask your Claude to find the root cause of the problems. Look what I said. You are pasting 10,000 lines of log in a distributed application and you're asking Claude to find the root cause. What do you think? Which model would be good in this particular case? I am trying to make you understand which model of Claude. I'll repeat if you want. Oh, most of you have gone for it. Absolutely. Now, why did you go for it? Simple. You're creating a distributed application. I said 15 microservices. So it is not something which is very simple to solve. I said you have 10,000 lines of logs that you're writing, right? And you want to find out the root cause. Now, it needs that deep reasoning. It needs that particular complex debugging. It needs to find out the root cause. Probably Opus would be a model that you would use it over here. Let me ask a other question. Say that, folks, you have to build a web application, some web application, and the web application has to review a pull request. Say you are going to work with a GitHub Copilot or a GitHub. People who come from a coding would be able to kind of relate faster. Say it has to kind of review a GitHub pull. It has to write some marketing emails. It is to generate some documentation for my web application, right? What kind of a model would be suitable here? Absolutely. You would be using Sonnet over here. You can use Opus, Nitin, but Opus would be overkill. Look what I said. You're building a simple web application. You just need an integration with GitHub Copilot or something like this. You just have to write some marketing emails and probably generate some documentation. Does it not look like a simple daily coding thing that you're doing it? So you can use Opus. Nobody's stopping us. But Opus will be overkill for us. You have to kind of use the right model for it. Let me give you another example. Say, folks, you have got 50,000 customer support tickets. You have got, you are working in a kind of a customer care team or maybe a support team, let's say, and you have got 50,000 customer support tickets. And your job is just to classify that 50,000 customer support tickets into some categories. Like this is basically a kind of, this is category one ticket, this is category two, this is category three. That's what you want to do it. What would you do in this particular case? Haiku. There is no logical reasoning that you're doing it. There is no coding that you're doing it. You simply have a lot of volume of data and you simply want to categorize it that this ticket is this category, this ticket is into the other category. You would rather go for a haiku kind of a model over here. So it is important that you understand what is something that we have to use it. Now let's go inside this. Then, folks, you work with the world of agents and you work with the large language models. There are three things that we will talk every day. There won't be a day where we will not talk about this. First, what is a token? We did speak about some token size here. 1 million context window. What is 1 million? Or I'm talking about 128K or a 64K. What is this? I'm talking about some tokens. What is a token? Absolutely. I love that answer. So what is a token? As it says, it is some unit of text. Not necessarily it is a word. It's not same as the word. Typically, we say that one token is like 4 characters, right? But it is not like a thumb rule. It is just a kind of an approximation. Now, if you're new to this particular word, if I go and show you this token over here, if you're new to this world, the best way to understand tokenization is go to this platform.openai.com tokenizer. You can also do this alongside with me if you want to go ahead and see. And you can see that this is an OpenAI tokenizer. Similarly, you can open up Claude tokenizer, doesn't matter. Now, this is a quick way of giving some text and see how it is generating tokens, right? I'm going to say any sample text. For example, as a show example, give me some sample text. This is my text. Now, when we give some text, there are some tokens that are created, generated, or rather, when we kind of I would say that particular consider this text, we rather convert these into tokens. How would a token look like? Not necessarily that a word is a token. Even a simple comma could be a token, right? Even a small emoji here can create multiple tokens. See that a small emoji got converted into 4 tokens. Every color is one single token. Check that particular, folks. Every digit or maybe a sequence of digits could be a token. Every single color is one token. And it would depend on a model to model how it is tokenizing. I'm just showing you a sample of OpenAI. So as a thumb rule, you can see here, OpenAI says that one token corresponds to 4 characters of text. Thumb rule. You can't say that it's fixed. It says that approximately 75 words is equal to 100 tokens. Please see this. So why is it so important to know about tokens? In fact, I was hearing out Sam Altman on one of the podcast. He says that token is a new currency. And that is true. Token is a new currency of your large language models or you deal with agents today. It's a new currency. Everything that we are measuring is tokens only. Input tokens, output tokens, context window tokens. We are being charged basis the tokens. So token is a new currency. He was also mentioning that people typically, when they write prompt, they write something like this: please do this. Or sometimes we tell our large language model, hey, can you write an email for me? Thank you. We often have an habit of doing it. So he was saying that people who are writing please and thank you, it is increasing the number of tokens for us. And it is costing us millions of dollars. Yes, just that small words that we add. For example, I say do this, and then towards the end, if I say thank you, even that is going to create some tokens for me. And it's a currency, and it is costing any particular company. So in short, token is the currency. That is what I'm trying to show you over here. Let me go back here. Then comes, folks, a context window. When I started, I told you a context window is something that made Claude very, very popular. I started working with Claude because of its context window initially, maybe in the year 2024 or something, when the first version came into picture. If anybody has used GPT, you give a long document to GPT, at least at that point of time, it will not process the complete document. It will just consider a few parts of it. But Claude, wonderful context memory. So what is context memory? The total tokens that a model can see at once, which includes your input tokens as well as output tokens. Think about it. It is like your conversation history. Think about that memory that I was talking about. Think of it, the model's working memory. Did I talk about it? In the agent, we had a memory. Now think of it, this is like your model's working memory. Everything must fit inside this window or your model will not remember it, it will forget. So that is where a context window is so important. So when you are making a choice, you also have to see what is the context window. This guy is fast, but the context window is so small, and that is the reason it is cheaper. Now, why this is so important? We are going to work with Claude Code. And a Claude Code will have an access to a complete code base. Imagine I'm going to sync my GitHub code repository. And in my code base is huge. I've got different modules, an enterprise grade application, different modules, code files, other files. I need to have a very, very long context memory. That's what makes Claude a different one. We already spoke about reasoning. That was an advantage of covering agents. Now, those particular terms, you can understand it. What is reasoning? You all know it now. A reasoning is basically a thinking capability. A model can think. If you are bringing in an agentic capability, you need a brain and a brain has to think. Remember, I was talking about react, reason plus act. which means that when you give a particular task, can it think step by step before answering? Can it create a plan? Can it then create a strategy to execute that plan? And it uses its extra computing power to think internally. Claude uses that hybrid approach to do it. So reasoning comes into picture. Now I already compared this, but I think this is something that I've put over here. I already compared it, but I wanted to kind of highlight something here. If you are comparing the top three players, I'm not considering DeepSeek or Grok AI and a Copilot, but let's compare the top three in the market today. The Google, because of its Google ecosystem, a GPT was the first one to kind of crack the LLM world, and a Claude, which is taking away from GPT recently. But a quick comparison on the tasks that we are doing it. Let's start with a context memory. Look here. So Claude, as I said, 1 million. Now GPT have got the models which is having a larger context memory. For that, you will have to kind of choose that particular model. Gemini, in certain kind of models, they have now come up with a 2 million context window as well, right? A star means not everywhere. You will have to go ahead and kind of configure this. It's not something that is going to come over here. Multimodal, which means a model which can think about text and images. Multimodals. What is a multimodal model? A model which is not just for text, it can work with different modes like images and videos and all of that. So Claude can work with text and images. Gemini, right from the day one, it could work with videos and audio and all of that. It has got that kind of models. GPT along with DALI, we can consider that as a multimodal. All right, we could see that. But let's now get to business. We are here to discuss about the coding. So let's talk about this. A research says a Claude can do 87.6% of my coding task. And this is probably some time back. Now I believe it is over 90%. A GPT was as low as 80.6% maximum. And that is maximum. A Gemini, probably for the coding, 75% of that particular things. So just a quick comparison. While I already gave you this, there's a cost comparison and all of that. I have given it over here. I did speak about the agentic AI. In fact, I spent a good amount of time. So that I don't have to spend a lot of time on these particular things. You all know this. The word agentic AI means that you will have a brain which will create some plans for you. It will then go ahead and execute it. But we are here not to perform your normal task. There are a few questions that I'll take up. Can Claude analyze Excel data? Absolutely. Not just it can analyze your Excel data, it can go ahead and create your a deep research document. It can go ahead and kind of create a dashboard for you. I will show you how beautifully it can perform those particular tasks. Now, that depends whether you're using Claude Code. Claude Code can also do it, but for that, you should rather use a Claude Cowork. So Claude Cowork has got skills. I haven't discussed the concept of skills. Sorry if I'm throwing jargons at you. The whole thing that a Claude does is it has got skills. So it has got skills like PowerPoint skill, Word skill, Excel skill, PDF skills, and you can even create your own skills. I'll show you how do you create your own skills. So can it do Excel data? PowerPoint? Absolutely, it can do it. It has got that particular skills. I'll talk about it, but just a kind of a quick thing. Now, folks, we are going to talk about coding. It's a Claude code that we are going to work most of the times. So how would an agentic AI work over here? I'm going to describe some goal, what I want. My Claude model is going to plan, code, test, fix, document, commit, and done. So it's going to use that same reasoning steps. It's going to plan. For example, if I say that I want to create a landing page for this application, this is what I want, this is something that I needed, these are my requirements, blah, blah. I'll give the whole lot of requirements here. So it's going to create a plan first. It's not going to go ahead and execute in one single go. In fact, I'm going to tell you that a Claude works in three modes: a plan mode, an execute mode, and maybe just a read only mode. So we'll see that, how does that three modes work. But in any mode, it will first plan. It will break the task into subtasks. It's then going to use the tools. Now you know how agent works. To perform that task, it needs tools. It might need a code agent or any other tool. It will go ahead and do that. It will then perform and observe. Remember, think, act, observe. That's a reasoning framework. It then goes ahead and kind of reflect. Did I do it correctly? Adjust and retry, which means it will reiterate. And it will keep repeating this unless the complete thing is created. Did I tell you the same thing? Why do you think the understanding of an agent was important? I was telling you the same thing. Think, act, observe. Think, act, observe. Exactly the same kind of a framework that we are working with. All right. So the point is, how is it different from the other eras? This is very important. People often ask, Sanjay, see, why is Claude becoming so important? Why is it becoming so popular? Code generation is happening since 2021, 2022 when ChatGPT got launched. What is the difference between when I write the code using ChatGPT? What is the difference that I kind of do the same thing with a GitHub Copilot? Or maybe I use Cursor AI, or maybe I use Amazon Code Whisperer, or I use Amazon Q. They are all code writers. They can also write the code for me. Or maybe I'm using something like Databricks Genie code. They are all going to be generating the code for me. What is the difference? And the difference is already clear, folks. When the ChatGPT got launched, I understand you were generating the code right from there. 2022, you know, we were amazed to see that a AI can generate a code for us. But that was just a chat, just a generation. I write code. I say that, hey, can you write a code for me? I want a HTML page with this particular details. I want maybe three text boxes. I want a button. I want probably this structure. I want an image. And it will go ahead and create an HTML for me. And then I will have to copy that HTML into my IDE or maybe any tool. And it will then go ahead and kind of create that for me. That was chat era. Then people said, why we have to do that copy paste business? Can I not have in my IDE itself, can I not have maybe the chat GPT or any LLM sitting inside it? So for example, you are going to use Visual Studio Code or you use IDE like IntelliJ or you use IDE like, let's say, Eclipse of Java, whatever. Can a chat GPT be inside it and I give instructions and it will keep creating something for me? That is where the Copilot era came into existence. You can install an extension of VS Code and your Copilot will be there within the VS Code itself. You don't have to go to ChatGPT and do all of that. AI will suggest code for you. AI will show you what are the possible errors. AI will show you how do you create the documentation for the code and all. But it is still not agentic. It is just an AI assistant. It is just like a kind of someone helping you debugging the code, troubleshooting the code, writing the code. It is something not executing on your behalf. And that is what has changed in the world of Claude, an agentic capability. AI is not just going to help you, it is not going to be an AI assistant anymore. It is going to be a kind of a doer for you. It's going to be a pair programmer for you, where you would just give instructions and the AI would execute for you. It will also kind of perform all of your tasks and you will just review. And what is changing now is in the 2025-26 era is now you're working on the autonomous era, which is beyond agent, which means that now you give the task. For example, in the morning, I gave a task to I thought about what I have to do for the day. I gave a task to my agent, a Claude, a very detailed instructions, a very kind of a complex task. And I say that I want this probably in an hour's time or whatever. And you go then head towards the meeting and come back and you see that, everything is probably created. Or probably you come tomorrow and you see that everything is good and it's kind of troubleshooted, debugged, tested. That's where we are living in that autonomous area. So the point that I'm making here is how is Claude different than the other code assistants that we have it? You talk about GitHub Copilot, you talk about Amazon Q or a code whisperer, you talk about Cursor AI. The main difference is the agentic AI and working in that autonomous manner. We already spoke about the agents, but now I'm trying to connect it with the code over here since we are trying to talk about Claude. Folks, so then if you're talking about Claude Code, obviously all of these particular things can be done with the Claude Code. And that's what we are going to see in the entire training here. We are going to use Claude Code for planning and designing. We don't directly go ahead and start with code. When you start designing your user stories. People who don't come from a software background, our user stories means creating your requirements. What exactly are your requirements? You create that user stories. Can Claude write user stories for me? Absolutely. A task which would take hours can now take probably minutes. I'm just kind of showing you this. After you create user stories, which is probably just a use case, or you call it as probably some requirement, you can now go ahead and kind of generate a code. The thing which will take days together, now you can do it in minutes, not even hours. You see that how this era has changed. Pre till 2021, the developers would take months to create something. With the help of chat era and a copilot era, we reduced it to days. Now, with that agent era and autonomous era that I'm talking about, we are talking about executing something in minutes to hours. Depends on the complexity that we have it. Do you see that difference? A months to days, a days to hours and minutes. And that's the difference that I'm trying to show you over here. A Claude can do a review. It's such a boring thing when you talk about reviewing your code, maybe a peer review or a group review. A Claude can do a automated review for you, reviewing your code, reviewing your security checks, or scanning. It can do all of that. We spend hours today to kind of debug our code. The moment we have some large potential risk or an error, it takes a huge time to debug. People spend hours or days to figure out what's going wrong. Why is my code breaking? You could probably do a root cause analysis and log analysis in seconds to minutes. That's the kind of thing. Claude was created for creating production based applications. Okay, you created the best of the code, but what about deployment? It's a complex thing to do. Can I automate my entire CI CD application? Right? Can I have my entire CI CD pipeline, not just continuously developing the code, but integrating it, deploying it to my production? Absolutely. It can do this here, right? And obviously, document becomes important. The documentation of the code can be generated with the help of Claude. Now, all of this, what I'm speaking, is just kind of a reference here. We are going to see that every single day where we will go ahead and kind of work with it. Now we are typically going into this, the Claude concepts. Like I said, there is a skills, commands, plugins. There are different modes that your Claude runs in. What are skills? I think let's do this tomorrow. I don't want to kind of do a lot of overburdening on the day one. Let's kind of do this tomorrow because the implementation anyways will go tomorrow, and anyways the repetition would be there. Let me take a few questions in the last couple of minutes. I saw some interesting questions here. Can Claude be synced with SQL code? Absolutely, Alka. That's the most basic thing that a Claude can do. Layoff and layoff and layoff. How keep her job if all this can be done without human touches? Now, I think, Chris, I know what you're thinking about. In fact, I see that as an opportunity. Don't think about, losing your job, or don't be scared about what is that we are going to do it. In fact, you think this is an opportunity. So you're learning a new skill. You're learning a new way of doing it. And if you have this particular skill as early as possible, you will always have an upper hand compared to others. So I don't see that probably, how can we now keep our job intact? The simple answer is keep learning. And if you learn faster, earlier than others, you're going to probably always have that kind of upper hand here. If you don't know which model to use, is there an option which is available in Claude Auto? Yes, that is definitely there. You can go ahead and kind of use your default, and your Claude can pick up the best model that can be used here. Like your GPT picks up the auto model, it can be done over here. How can we reduce the number of tokens? Jyoti will discuss that. What is the kind of tokens? What is the impact of tokens? And I'll show you how do we go about working with it. For this course, do you need Claude Pro or a Claude Max? I would suggest Claude Pro is sufficient. But sometimes if you are practicing more than what you should be doing, you are over enthusiastic, you keep running it. Remember, Claude has got the upper limit on the number of tokens. It will, the moment there is a over usage, it will probably have that kind of a window, and it will say that you can now send your next prompt at maybe after a couple of hours and all of that. So I think Claude Pro is good. Don't go for Claude Max. Unnecessarily, you will be paying $100 a month. I use Claude Max because I use it in multiple trainings. I use it in my consulting assignments. So for me, the Claude Pro doesn't work. But learning Claude Pro is quite good. You don't need a Claude Max for that. Okay. I think enough of that questions. Maybe I see some more questions on automation and how can we go ahead and kind of work on this. Let me kind of answer that practically when I start working on Claude tomorrow. So what's an agenda for tomorrow? The first thing, I'm going to complete these kind of concepts. These are all the core concepts of Claude, which I don't want to do it in a hurry. Second, I'm going to show you the tools and installations that would be required. And tomorrow, we will then go ahead and start working on at least some basic prompts to create our application, at least getting those basic things done with my Claude. Maybe a smaller applications, a lightweight applications that we can start using it. In short, we will bring Claude to application from tomorrow onwards. I would suggest, Anil, if you have a Claude Pro, it's going to help you. It's just $20 a month. So if you have that, it's always going to help you. The Claude Pro is basically suggested for this training. Anyways, I'm going to again reiterate that tomorrow, but just for the understanding today. With that, folks, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to see you tomorrow the same time. Till then, enjoy your rest of the weekend. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, folks.
Well, that was day one from our Claude Code for Agentic AI Mastery, targeted for architects, developers, engineers, managers who are working on AI-assisted development, software development lifecycle. So now the best way to learn all this is by actually implementing. So I have already created a video, which again you can go and check out by going here. In that we have actually installed a Visual Studio Code, created an account on Claude, and then use that to create a simple application. Now, if you're a developer, you're going to love that. If you're not a developer, I want you to go and understand the whole process so that you can see how your developers can use that. So we're going to install on your PC, we're going to install a Claude. We'll also install Git, so that you can store the code repository. We'll also install in that the Node.js that we'll be using for command line, any activity from VS Code directly going to Claude, and then you're building a simple application so you understand. So at least you will understand the whole process. If you're a developer, do that completely. If you're non-developer, then I still want you to go through so you understand how your developers are going to work. Link will be below this on that you see in the screen, and we'll put that into our screens as well. So in that first thing, there's another video which will be referring. So these are individual videos you can link to each other. So what you're going to do is you're going to install Claude Code, git node.js using the URL which is given on the screen. Do that first and then come and play with this application that you'll be creating a simple web application and then extending it so that you can see how it'll take less than 30 minutes with a non-developer like me to build. So someone from my team who's not a coder or developer build that application. We'll be talking about that as well. So go through that. Now before we go, and then next week we are going to, based on, if you're interested, we'll look at the day 2, which is where actually we will begin with the building blocks of the Claude and what all things you should be doing. So let me walk you through, and if you're interested on day 2, just leave a comment so that I can see enough commands or enough people are consuming this, then we'll share the day 2 as well. So we'll do a quick recap on what we've learned on day 1. There'll be some quizzes part as well to see whether you've learned it enough or not. So we'll be beginning with doing a quick recap and understanding what you've done. Also, there are 5 offering on Claude. The first is chatbot or assistant, we call AI assistant. Let me open and show it to you actually on the system. So first one is AI, we say Claude Chat or AI Assistant that you see. So typically when you install Claude.ai, or not install but create an account, you get this Claude AI. This is kind of a ChatGPT style. You can ask questions and so on. If you install, when you're installing this, that you'll be finding it here on install chat as well. So that's something you can play. That's the first offering. Then you have a coding agent, which is a Claude Code that again is available on, if you see on Code, that is available, should be available I think both in the free account as well. So that's second offering. Then the third offering, which is a Claude Cowork, and that is when you go for pro account or max account. That we'll be talking in future videos about what the payment plan is, paid account are. So that's where you'll be seeing Cowork. Now 2 other things which we are not going to, or which I've not covered, which we'll be covering in future videos about Claude security, that is for enterprise level Claude accounts. And the second is Claude platform. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into Claude platform as well, where you can nowadays build the entire AI-based applications API that not only through Claude platform, but also interfacing that Claude platform through AWS or Azure or Google or other cloud providers as well. If you want to know, I've created another video about Claude offering, all these 4-5, which one to use when. It's probably around good I think 20 plus minutes of video to understand all the 5 options that are available Claude offering. We'll also cover that in a day 2 by the same expert that we'll be talking about. We'll also look at, as I said, we're going to go a separate video about this, but on day 2 we'll be briefly touching base with the payment plan, which is free, which is first individual and teams and enterprises, and within that individual you have a free, pro and max. So pro is more than enough for you to work with us on this workshop or the series that we are working on. But then if you really want to, actual companies will be building enterprise level, you'll be building either teams or enterprise, which we'll be talking about that as well. So what are the payment differences? Now even if you create that, there's something which probably when you install Cowork or Code, Pro is enough. But then if you're using APIs, or if you're using in your Python programs or coding, there's a separate thing, API uses, which we'll be talking about. So the payment is slightly tricky. So we'll talk about those as well. So as I said earlier, if you're going to free plan, you'll be seeing chat or code as well. If you're going for payment plan, which is a pro or max, then you'll be seeing the Cowork, which is a team working as well. So we'll talk about all these things in future. We'll go a little bit detail as well. I'm also going to go how to be careful you don't burn your billing, and be careful with, especially about if you go under settings and billings or uses, that's where you see that you don't end up paying, like we spend a lot of money onto doing these AI assisted development for our clients as well as for the individuals where we go and train these things. So that is where be careful in terms of you don't have turn on user limit, which will be basically it can overgo as well. Claude can go very, very quickly, very expensive. So be mindful of that. So we'll talk about those things in future videos, and any payment related queries that you have, just leave it below this video. We'll also go a little bit deeper into code installation on how we cover on day 2. But as I said, there's already a video Claude install that should be very detailed. If you need any help, if you're struggling, leave a comment below on that respective video or this video. We can help you with that as well, or installation part. And then how do you configure the Claude Code extension on Visual Studio Code, which is a development environment. There's also a Chrome extension, which is highly recommend you to install so that you can do on a day-to-day work that you're doing, that you can even use Claude within when you're working with the Chrome browser as well. So look at that. Also, we're going to look at some of the settings, important settings on day two on this part, what you should be doing at a global level, at a session level as well. And then towards the end, we're going to create an artifact, which is developed or building an application like it's a web application or phone application we can build very, very quickly. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to create a dashboard for some sales-based applications on artifacts. Now, artifact is different from a skill. So what is an artifact? We'll be creating a dashboard, as I said, but artifact is different from skill. So skill will be coming in future videos, but then skills is something which will be using repeatedly. So what is skill or how do you create those skills? There are some predefined, pre-created skills that comes, which you can leverage from Claude. And then also there's something called a skills hub, which is you can create your own skill and put that, and you can either sell it or free, which is available on Skills Hub. We'll be talking about that as well. And finally, we'll wrap up the day two with some quizzes, questions to see whether you're performing these well or not. So with that, now what you need to do is, if you really want to go on to the next one, the next part, either here or here, one of these videos will be about looking and doing this part, which is about my how to create your application in Claude, very simple applications. You can understand the whole process through a Visual Studio Code generation. Even if you're not a developer, I highly recommend you to watch this so you can tell your developers to start using them. So it'll be video here or here somewhere, next video. Watch it out, and I'll see you, looking forward to see you inside day two. Also look at the description with all some useful links for the free classes that we host. With that, this is Atul. Give me a feedback on what we can do to improve on these videos. We're constantly working and improving on these videos. So look forward to see you on the next video. Take care and bye for now.